Well, my name's Jon Luoma. I live in Alna, a little ways down the coast from here in Rockland, and I'm a painter. I guess you could say nature and environmental or landscape a lot of the time, not only. I am definitely not a bird painter, although a lot of these paintings have birds in them. So you will see that partly because they're such a lovely part of the landscape. So this is the most prominent bird, I think. Shall we go ahead and go in the gallery? Most of these paintings are of Maine. This one is of the mid-coast, although it could be anywhere on the Maine coast, probably, kind of a common, rugged scene. This one is the Galapagos, very dramatic lava formations and beautiful, beautiful birds in the Galapagos. Both of these two paintings are indicative, perhaps, of an aspect of my paintings, which is that I studied in China for a while, and although in no way are these Chinese paintings, they, I think, reflect some Chinese aesthetics and approaches, and including a lot of dark ink, more than a normal Western watercolor perhaps might have. You could decide for yourselves. But you can see that in some of these scenes here, that they're not quite the same as a more colorful Western watercolor. There's another Maine scene up in the Quaddy Head area. And some of these paintings have more what you could call imagination or memory, working from memory in them. Some of them are more working from real life or working from reference sketches. These two, they're the only two in the gallery that have quotes from Henry Thoreau. Very beautiful quotes from Mr. Thoreau, who is one of America's great writers. I'll read them aloud in case people can't see them, they're not long. This one here, Thoreau says, "When I would recreate myself or recreate myself, I seek the darkest wood, the thickest and most interminable, and to the citizen most dismal swamp. I enter a swamp as a sacred place, a sanctum sanctorum. There is the strength, the marrow of nature." So he's talking about a particular habitat, which Thoreau was actually early scientific approach in some cases to ecology and nature. On a completely different level, this quote in the upper picture with some calligraphy, here goes. Mr. Thoreau says, "Dullness is but another name for tameness. As the wild duck is more swift and beautiful than the tame, so is the wild, the mallard thought, which mid falling dews wings its way above the fens." I've thought about that quote a lot. What is a wild thought as opposed to a tame thought? We can all think about that. And I think about that when I'm doing paintings. What does that mean, whether your thoughts are truly in tune with yourself and your approach to whatever you're painting, including the outdoors? This picture, again, a style maybe showing some Chinese or Oriental influence, is of the wonderful scenario in Upper South Branch Pond in Baxter Park. In wintertime, in this case, I go in there with some friends most winters and ski through parts of the park. Absolutely a magnificent place. That, of course, is partially an imaginary scene. You could not see that scene in real life. Some of these others reflect, again, places in Maine in various seasons, including winter. Winter is a beautiful season. There's, again, more landscapes. I think everything in here, with maybe one exception, is a landscape. This is actually a Himalayan scene. I've done some trekking in Nepal. And the bottom one is the Galapagos again. This is Newfoundland, with the moose skull that we found trekking in the highlands of Newfoundland. Here's a Scottish Hebridean scene. I guess this is kind of the international wall, but these two are definitely Maine. This one is Maine. This is the Sheepscot River. Ice on it. I live near but not on the Sheepscot River. And last but not least, something a little bit different from Nepal, where they still use working elephants, and I just thought I used this for a Christmas card actually. Very poignant to see these elephants chained up at night, beautiful animals, placidly enjoying their dinner. So that gives some idea of the range of things that I try to do. Certainly this gallery here at the wonderful refuge building in Rockland concentrates on nature and mostly on Maine coastal and inland scenes. So thank you for watching the video.
Good afternoon. My name is Kirk M. I live in Portland, Maine, and I'm proud to be exhibiting at the Visitor Center Refuge again. So we're going to take a little tour around and see what I got on the wall. This is a print that I hang in my living room. It was a September shot at Petite Mandarin. I've also got other versions of it, but it's the only one I got framed up. So this is number 1 on my list. Moving into the primary display area, on the wall, the bird shots. These are western sandpipers. In this particular exhibit, I'm actually showing some stuff that was not shot in Maine, which I usually don't do, but I probably had framed up. These western sandpipers were shot down in Florida. And I got a couple of puffin shots. This is one of my signature shots, which I really love. Those were from Untitled Island, of course. And I found this really antique brown pelican down in Florida, so I thought that was a cool shot, so I took a picture of it. Actually, I have another framing of it with just the head and the beak, you know, so it's long and skinny, so it's pretty cool. Over here we have gray seals. This is in the Gulf of Maine. This was shot off a boat when I went to Mishayasil Island. And I have an Arctic turnship banded here by the refuge staff. This is at Patinnicus Rock. Pair of Bohemian waxwings, which are shot in Cumberland, Maine. It was late in the year, you know, probably December or January, and they were eating the leftover apples, which were all getting a little bit of juice from that, you know, because it's fermented by that time. On this wall we have the ever famous iguana, which everybody said, why would you frame it? The detail in this print is stunning. This was taken in South Florida a few years ago. The green heron, which was pretty common in Maine. This one was shot in Savannah, Georgia. Here we have a coyote that was photographed in Oklahoma, and a peregrine falcon who was underneath the Casco Bay Bridge. Back then it was called the $1 Million Bridge. But he was actually, this male, they had a nest, and they had at least one chick who was out flying around, but this time but the male stayed on top of, this is the light standing on a building. So when I took this shot, I had a friend of mine with me, and on top of the bridge they had a guardrail, and they had a fence. So I hung over the fence, and he was looking straight down, and you can see he was checking me out. I also got a frame version of this down the road to show you. Here's a pair of egrets, great egrets, breeding plumage. And you see how green the lores are. They don't really change a lot, but their feather plumage is much nicer and more on display. This is a mating pair. Some Mandarin Ducks, which I'm sure were imported from somewhere, but they were at a guy's place in Florida. So I took a shot of them. Got some prairie dogs from Oklahoma. There's quite a few of them there. This is some bank swallows I found at a gravel pit. I think it was in Buxton, but I had these little bank swallow chicks, and I thought that was pretty cool, so that's why I put that picture up. This is a shot from Tybee Island in the North Shore in Georgia, and it's all these black skimmers. I just thought it was neat. I was down on my hands and knees crawling around the flock. Don't put up with it as long as you don't stand up. If you stand up, everything flies away. This is actually a reddish egret, but it's in a morph stage. So it's pretty unusual, so I thought that was pretty cool. Also taken in Florida. I think it's we got a Wimble. This shot was taken on in the Florida Keys. And I was down there doing, I actually photographed all the way from Maine all the way down to the Florida Keys, out to the fort out there and stuff in the back. An eastern painted turtle I was shot in Evergreen Cemetery in Portland. A black vulture, this was shot in Georgia. And then again, that's one of those birds, if you don't stand up, I crawled across the road on my stomach with the 400mm lens to get that shot. Here's a peregrine falcon again in a framing. This is one of my favorites. Boro Regal, this was photographed in Florida. I don't think we see those up here, but you don't go too far to find them, but there's a lot of them in Florida. And usually when they're nesting, all the places will block off and so nobody can walk through there, which you try to protect the chicks. This is the cattle eater in breeding plumage. This is also down in Georgia. And obviously this shot is not local. This is a big gator I used to photograph quite regularly down at Savannah National Wildlife Refuge. And it's probably still there. He always hangs around the same place all the time. And we have another shot here. We had, this was in Maine, we had these around. And this barn owl chick also came from Georgia. I was walking underneath the pole barn at the refuge and I heard this plop. When I turned around, this barn owl chick had fallen out of the nest. So I got down on my stomach and crawled in, got a good shot at him too. So this is a crane, sandhill crane. There's only two types of cranes in North America. This is one of them. The other one you have to go out west to get, which I'll do eventually. I got a couple of landscapes on this wall. This is an image called Foreign Maine. It was taken on the Windjammer J&R rigging, probably back in 2006 or 7. I've sold many copies of this print. I love the framing of it with the rope kind of look about it. There's a couple of artifacts here. This is, of course, Spring Point ledge light in South Portland. And the breakwater light, commonly known as bug light, is another version of that here, which I actually prefer the HDR version. This is a cuckoo I shot on Monhegan Island. And I actually have another shot looking in, so I call them the bookends, but I only framed up one for this. So, a yellow-billed cuckoo. This is, again, this is bug light, which is a Greek-style lighthouse. And from the area where the Portland headlight is, you can see the ramrod and ledge light from there, and that's a shot I took from there. And this is a bald eagle that was photographed in moose horns. And this is a king whale, by the way, which are very elusive. They're very difficult to get a hold of. This is early morning in the Savannah Refuge, and I got some really good shots of some chicks, which I don't have mounted. That's this room. Walking in the astronomy area. These are some shots, mostly film shots, through my telescope. This is a summer Milky Way shot. I think it was taken, it was either in Western Massachusetts or Cherry Springs State Park in Pennsylvania. I can't remember, I had to look it up. This is an eclipse sunrise. It was taken from the pier in Eastport. And I think it's kind of neat. The color obviously is real, but when the sun was rising, it was already an eclipse. So, you know, all the birds and everything had already started back to roost and everything. It was pretty neat. This is actually my first true astronomy photograph. I think it was taken in 1995 or something. I have to look. Same thing, stinger of Scorpius. This is in Sagittarius, which is the heart of the Milky Way, really. It was taken through an F6 telescope. This is one of my premier shots. This is the Ophiuchus. Rho is the 16th star in the Greek alphabet, you know, the 16th letter in the Greek alphabet. So Rho is the name of the star. Ophiuchus is the constellation. So this area is really rich in color. You see red in an astro shot is hydrogen. When you see blue, it's generally dust. And this star, Atari, is illuminating everything around it before you get to yellow, and then of course the red over here again. There's a star cluster here. A really neat shot. Probably a 90-minute shot from New Mexico. Another summer Milky Way shot. I think this might have been from New Mexico as well. I have to look. California Nebula and Perseus, the constellation Perseus. This is kind of interesting because this is Barnard's star right here, which is a really gigantic star. It's much larger than our sun, significantly larger. And this is the elephant's trunk here. I don't know if I have a close up on that. I don't think I did, but I shot the whole thing. Of course, you see the red, so that's the hydrogen coming out, and the star. And this is a hydrogen alpha shot, CCD shot of the Horsehead Nebula in Orion. And it's probably there's probably 15-minute frames or something combined on that. On this side, this is a shot from Cherry Springs State Park, and it just shows you this is Polaris in the middle, and I exposed it long enough to shoot all the star rails around it, star trails. Picture of waxing moon. This is one of my early shots. Everybody shoots the moon, but it's really good practice. The Pleiades, M45, you see those. A lot of people think that they see that, they think it's actually a Little Dipper, but it's much smaller in size. And the blue you see is the Merope Nebula. And in a couple thousand years or 500,000 years or whatever, the star cluster will stay, but the nebula will be moving on. It will separate. This is the ever famous Andromeda Galaxy, probably the most photographed one from Earth, because anytime you see a galaxy, it's outside of our solar system. So that's truly, extragalactic. The Great Orion Nebula, again, this is called the Running Man. This is a really pretty famous astrophotography shot. Everybody shoots that pretty much. And then this is an unusual shot because the transit of Venus only happens like every 180 years. In this case, June 8th of 2004, that's Venus crossing the sun. And it gives you an idea how large our sun is, because Venus is just a little bit smaller than the planet Earth. So it fit across the disk of that sun like 120 times. The sun is enormous. The sun is like 95% of all the mass and everything in the solar system. 95% of that's the sun. Everything else is the dark matter, the planets, the satellites, the moons, everything. So it's pretty crazy. This is another star trail shot from Cherry Springs in Pennsylvania. One thing that's interesting about this, they use this print to make the astronomy, specialty plate for the state of Pennsylvania. Like you can buy, like you get like a conservation plate or something like that here. Well, here they have money that goes towards the dark sky site of this park. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So that's about it. That's what I have displayed. I think there's 51 pieces up. Although, this is 46. Yeah, 51, right. So thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
A tribute to Kirk M. Rogers, volunteer extraordinaire for Maine Coastal Islands National Wildlife Refuge. A message from Brian Benedict, Refuge Manager. Kirk Rogers' exceptional photography has been used in many ways to connect the public with our treasured refuge islands and the seabirds they support. Over many years, Kirk has generously volunteered his time to accompany refuge staff to offshore islands to capture stunning images. Since most of the public will never visit our islands, Kirk's photos have been used to share the beauty through exhibits in our visitor center, social media, and scientific and public presentations. Thank you, Kirk.